Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I want to show you how to use MyFitnessPal. This is going to be a desktop version, so I might try to show you on my phone since most of you are going to be using the app and probably the scanner feature of MyFitnessPal. But without further ado, let's get started. So when you first sign in to MyFitnessPal and you create an account, it's going to look something like this. So it's going to ask you what your goals are. A lot of you will, let's see, a lot of people want to lose weight. So there we go. Now it's going to ask you some psychology type of questions. Maybe cravings, that's a big one for a lot of people. Very affirming, MyFitnessPal. I would say most people are probably in this lightly active stage. Perfect. Let's just say perfect. Really? They recommend losing 1 pound per week? I think that's really, for the weight that I just put in, I don't know if I agree, but we'll just go with the recommended. This part you guys don't get to see. So this is something that I will say, guys. I got past all of the logins and I don't agree with this. I really don't agree with this. Really don't. My toddler eats more than this. This is an algorithm, but it is an excellent food logger, so that I will say. All right, reach the goals faster. Now, on my regular one, I do have the premium, which is really, really nice. I hope to show you guys some of those features. So one thing that I really do like is that there's sneaky ways that you can work around this, but let's go and program this the way that it's going to set you up for success. All right. So you have your home screen and your macros. If you get the premium, you can choose any type of diet that you want. They have a lot of great articles on here. Now, here's where you want to go here, and it also has this in the settings bar of your app. So I don't agree with this at all. In fact, if you watched my last video on how to program artificial intelligence / chat GPT to plug in the macros, this is a spot where you can actually go in and plug in those goals that the chat GPT or your trainer gives you. So for me, it's going to be at least 1,800. And then we can, this might be a premium feature. Yeah, it is. But let's say we've got a certain number of carbs. This is actually, I'm around 220 for carbs. This is pretty dang close to what I've got. So this is much better for somebody of my activity level. I did put a lower activity level, but truly, you know, I'm lifting 5 times a week and doing 30 minutes of cardio right now 5 times a week, and I usually get like 10 to 12,000 steps per day at this stage. So that's a really good maintenance. 30 minutes a day for your heart health, plenty of exercise in other places. Those are great goals. Don't go with the algorithm, guys. That's how you can, you know, not always get what you need. What is this check-in thing? Oh, that's cool. I actually didn't know that it had this on the desktop version. I measure on my check-ins with my coach. They have a really neat platform where I can take my measurements and it records it all in one place because that's the platform that she uses. And you can hook up your scale. Even if you have the MyFitnessPal app, you can actually hook up your smart scale to share with MyFitnessPal so that it'll hopefully like automatically, I actually don't know if it automatically lowers what your macros should be, but one thing, as I said in the last video, that people get wrong is that they don't lower their macros as they become smaller. So let's say I was to go from 115 to 112. right around that time, that's when I would need to change my macros and adjust them because I'm a more efficient, tinier person using less energy. Less energy. I can say that. So that's why people a lot of times will have a large number of success going from what I call couch to activity. You'll see a huge success. Then all of a sudden the diet doesn't work. And that's because they're not adjusting to go lower and adjusting to go lower. So without further ado, if you have the MyFitnessPal app and you sign up for premium, you just pay it up front for the whole year and it unlocks a ton of features that, in my opinion, are completely worth it if you're very serious about your goals and you want to make things as easy as possible. That's a huge key, guys. When you have goals, make a plan and then make it as easy as possible so that you aren't overflowing your capacity. So let's say for breakfast, I put cream in my coffee. So you're going to have to match up with what's in your fridge. If you have the scan feature, it should, most of the time, I would say 98% of the time, have the appropriate barcode and nutrition. Always double check to make sure that it's updated. But let's just say usually the one with the check mark. Let's add that to the food diary. Then let's say I put 2 scoops of collagen. There it is. Then let's say I have some egg whites for breakfast. Good old Good and Gather from Target. There we go. Now, if you put a cup of egg whites, which I do, it's not just 3. You're going to need to adjust it and make sure that you add that to your food diary. So this actually on the desktop version will break it down for your carbs, fats, and proteins. On the app, it's going to break it down for you in a little bit of a different way. I'm going to go back here and see if it will actually show you. So on the app, this is what mine looks like. If you pay for the premium, you get to see how many of your carbs, fats, and proteins you have every single day. It's gonna, for mine, I put heart healthy as one of my goals. And at the bottom here, as you can see, I've got it attached to my smartwatch, so it shows how many steps I've taken every single day. And it shows how many strength training sessions I've done. Now, I encourage everyone not to include your exercise into earning more calories, and that will be in your settings. So you can track any macronutrient you want. So what you don't want is to have these calorie adjustments for earning more calories after you work out. Now, of course, if you decide to run a marathon with your friends for fun and you want to add back in some of the calories and see how much you have earned or you can eat extra that day if you're maintaining, I don't really see a problem with that. I would say if your goal is to gain muscle and you're one of those people that have a hard time putting on mass, then that's when I would say, yeah, go ahead and add those in, especially when your goal is to gain muscle, put weight on your body. Go ahead and enable those adjustments. Also, you'll want to make sure that wow, my teeth just whistled. You'll want to make sure that if you go, into your settings, you want to make sure that you set this to, private, public, or if you're doing a fitness journey with a friend, you could make some friends on here and do a buddy type of system on here. Mine is just usually set to private. That's pretty neat. As I said, I don't use this feature because I don't add the calories back in. And once again, if you have the premium feature, or I think even if you don't, you can attach this to a smart scale so that you can have that attached there. These are all the apps that you can attach to your MyFitnessPal, which is pretty neat. They've got quite a few of those. And once again, you can connect to the community if you want. One of the things that I really appreciate is sorry, I'm just exploring this. One of the things that I really appreciate is their dietitian blogs and the things that you can learn, the recipes that you can learn. I never put my picture on there. I just don't see a reason to. So once again, now we've got our app set up, we've logged our first meal. We have made sure that if we have a weight loss goal that we're not going to add our exercise calories back in. And we're going to make sure that every single time that we gain or lose weight, we're going to go into the settings and we're going to adjust the goals. There we go. So you're going to go to your settings on your phone and then you're going to go to goals on the app. But here on the desktop, you can go straight to the goals. So let's say I was to go from 115 to 112. I would go back in there and I would edit these. And I just save the changes. And then I make sure that my macros are the correct grams that my trainer or that your ChatGPT told you to edit these to. Or you can play around with these. One of the things that's great about logging everything that you eat is that carbs, this macronutrient gives you energy. Fats, they're in charge of our hormones. They're in charge of helping us feel satiated. They have a lot of flavor that they bring to our everyday life. And then of course, protein, every single cell in your body is made of protein. So you can feel and figure out where your body is going and what you feel best at on all of your training days. So let's say maybe you have a really big leg day. Maybe you find that you're crashing in the middle of your leg day. So you add some more carbs in that day. Totally fine. I'm gonna see if the desktop version has this. Okay, I don't see. It does have a tutorial on how to guide this setup, right? So I'm gonna show you on the app if I can. So on the app, make sure here, from the dashboard, you're going to go to more, and then you're going to go down here. You can even schedule intermittent fasting windows if you would like to, although I'm more of a timing girl. I'm not a intermittent fasting fan necessarily. I think 12 hours, especially for women, is fine for everybody. There's just too much. If you guys do the research, this is just totally, completely my opinion. I might have a ton of people in my comment section, but be nice. Because what the studies have shown for women, and this is true of a lot of studies out there, is that they mostly have studied guys for the fasting studies. So what I will say very briefly is that when it comes to fitness and research with women, it's really bizarre because we're at least half, if not over half of the population. Yet most of the studies out there, they're not false studies, they're just done on males, which the bodies are very different. So hormonally, most of the time our cortisol is going to be peaking within that first 30 minutes to an hour of waking up. So it's a good idea to have something, if only to manage our cortisol. Maybe for me, I found that when I cut off my food a little bit earlier in the evening, I tend to sleep much better at night. Not everybody is that way, but that's what I mean by having an eating window rather than an intermittent fast, so to speak. So they do have that feature if you are a fan, though. The recipe discovery is one of my favorites, making healthy pumpkin pie and seasonal favorites. Yeah, here it is. So you can go to the goals, just like we did on the desktop. We can customize our goals by the gram, which is what I do. I like to customize my goals by the gram. And then if you want to, you can hit this button, which is a premium feature that says add daily goal. So you can set for each day of the week. Let's say, I remember there was a trend going around for carb cycling, right? Or let's say that your trainer has you on really low macros for 3 days of the week, followed by a refeed day. That happens a lot when you're going through your prep and you're going through training to get to stage. And that happens a lot, to do the push, pull, that you're going to need to rev up your metabolism and then bring down the calories, and then keep your metabolism revved up and then bring down the calories, right? Especially as you're getting into leaner and leaner body fat percentages. This day of the week goal saved my life when I didn't have a brain, when I was in the very last couple months of prep. So I would just find every week what they would tell me my macros were, and then I would change the goals and I would set it to the day of the week, and it changed it automatically. So, because remember, this is a tool to serve you. This is a tool to help you be successful. So as you're logging your food, you can make sure that you're just hitting those macros every day of the week. And I would say being within, 5 to 10 grams of your macro goals is a really great starting place. And then if you're competing or getting stage lean, you're really going to want to be hitting those within a gram or two of what your trainer or whatever your assigned macros are going to be. Because if you cheat the goal, you cheat the results. There's really no lying about what results you get as far as your fitness goes. And over 80% of what you're going to be succeeding in is with your food, with your nutrition. This is going to help you figure out your body. It's amazing to find out the way that your body responds to certain foods. We all think that we're so aware, but as we keep food journals and as we go throughout our day, I believe that using a tool like this, and I'm just using this one as an example because this is the most popular one, and it's free at the base level. And then, as I said, I think it's like $75 a year or something for the premium if you pay for the whole year. But there's a lot of ways to log your food. And as I said, this is going to be 80% of your success when it comes to your fitness and nutrition goals. So it's a learning curve to learn your body. When I'm starting out a client on MyFitnessPal, I'm always telling them, just log for a week or two. It's even better if they've been doing this before they come to me. And just log for a week or two or even 4 without judgment. Just whatever you eat, just put it in. Just like I showed you guys I did. If you eat 4 almonds, just here. Like let's say I ate 4 almonds for a snack. Like I went into the pantry and I'm like, ooh, those look good. Literally, I don't care if it's like 1 almond. So let's see, this one's what, 24 nuts? So what would 4 of those be? Maybe like, let's say I had that many. There you go. Only 43 calories, right? But 43 calories is 43 calories. And if you're going to find yourself eating in the pantry or grazing, just without judgment towards yourself, just log what you graze. Find out what all those little things are. If you have a handful of chocolate chips, just kind of count them real quick, eat them without guilt, and log it. They've also got a really nifty water feature here. On the app, it does it in ounces. So I make sure I'm always hitting 124 ounces of water a day, and that's water alone. That's a really great way to hit your water goals, and just being very consistent here in logging. Now, here's the little tidbit that I will say. You're always going to want to reassess your accuracy as you move on. When you're first starting out, like the first 2 to 4 weeks, as I said, if you eat it, just log it. Don't judge yourself. Just figure out what you're eating every single day. And as I said, the sizes are important. If you've, got the tablespoon measurement, as I said, the 3 tablespoons, you're going to want to log all of it. If you have some potato chips, for example, scan that barcode or, whatever, and then actually use a food scale. Actually weigh out the amount that you're eating, because, tonight I think that the serving size on the bag said 1 ounce or 9 chips. I had a little plate of nachos. So make sure that you actually measure it, because what if you want to have another serving, or what if you look at it and you go, ooh, that's not going to be enough? You have your daily budget for what you need to do. As I said, I don't really recommend going to the suggested algorithm because I think it's too low. I think that most people who are going to be weightlifting 5 times a week shouldn't be eating that little. I think that especially for gals my size, like it might be okay for people that are a little bit bigger or people who have muscle gaining goals, but always double check the numbers that the algorithm of MyFitnessPal recommends, because otherwise, let's say I had gone with that 1200 calorie suggestion. When I lose weight, what's it going to be putting me at? Where else am I going to cut? It's just too low. So keep that in mind. Go with your doctor's recommendation, dietitian. Double check it with ChatGPT or your personal trainer. And once again, all of those results you need to share with your doctor. It's a very serious thing. It's your health. But then, like I said, step 2, without judgment, log everything. Measure everything, weigh everything, and don't cheat yourself. And then the next step is to make sure, this is why I really like MyFitnessPal, is for the database. So let's say you go out and you eat at Chipotle. They have no checked, well, they do have this one that has a checked mark. Oh, Chipotle hummus, that's fun. Okay. This I actually know from the website is accurate. So let's go to Chipotle Nutrition Calculator and double check. Let's do a burrito bowl. So you can literally, on the Chipotle site, make sure that everything that you input into MyFitnessPal is accurate. I think that we just logged the cheese. So there we go, 110 calories. It was correct. And then you'll want to actually go through 8 grams, 6 grams, 1 gram. I had a little snafu with this exact thing when we were in the middle of prep, and I realized that my shaken espresso from Starbucks, take a look at this. So the cold foam was actually logged incorrectly here. So this is with this classic syrup with all the sugar, and that's not how I take mine. So let's say you take your shaken espresso or coffee like I take mine. Let's see if they have that one. So this would account for the espresso calories and the milk that they put in it. but no sugar. Let's type in the cold foam. So this is not accurate. I can tell you that right now. This is pretty close. Now, this is how I realized that you really, really have to double check, because this is what I was recording. And it wasn't accurate as far as all of the macros went. So if we go to Starbucks and double check this against let's see. It's actually a lot easier to do this on the app than it is on a desktop. Now, I'm not sure if I want to download it. Let's look at the menu. Yeah, let's go here. So it'll tell you exactly what the nutrition is. It's got the allergy information. I had a couple screenshots in my last video where I took screenshots of the cold foam, and literally, just like I did here, as you're recording, make sure that what you're recording here matches up to what you are ordering here and the nutrition information on the website. And most big companies that you order from are going to have all of this here. I know that it's a little bit overwhelming. And it also is going to vary a little bit from country to country. What is the, yeah, this is in kcals. Okay. So that is all that I have for the tips. As I said, just do an assessment. Sometimes even the regular things that you record. Let's say, I remember that as I got into the depths of prep, the stevia that I used, it changed from being 0 calories to having, I think it was like 5 grams of carbs that I didn't realize. So I was, in total, you know, you're using those all throughout the day. I was having an extra 20 grams of carbs easily at a time when I was trying to stay below a certain number. And of course, as all of you know, that can be incredibly frustrating. And then you're like, well, why is the results not coming? And then you find there's all these extras. Another really sneaky one is gum. I know that we don't think about it, but it isn't a calorie-free food. And if you are trying to use gum to assist you in your weight loss goals, sometimes you can be eating so much gum that you're having an extra almost 100 calories a day without even realizing it. So I've seen that scenario before. So these are just little things to be aware of as you use MyFitnessPal, and we use all the tools available to us to track our food, to be successful, and to hit our health and fitness goals. So I hope that those things are helpful to you guys. As I said, make sure that you double check the algorithm, because as you saw in my case, it's often, and for a lot of women, way too low. You don't want to go that low at your starting point, because then where are you going to go from there? Also, where are you going to get your energy to go do your workout when you raise your activity level? You want to probably put it at the highest activity level, because otherwise, like I said, if you start there, you have nowhere to go from there. You'll be at 800 calories a day doing hours of cardio to try to maintain some sort of result, rather than just maintaining for a little bit, lifting, not showing your body all of the cards, as I always say, and kind of bringing that dial down slower. And then make sure that you're double checking that you are being accurate. Don't guess, weigh. You know, if I log a banana on here, for example, you can guess, but what I would recommend is going by the grams. Find, when you're logging your fruit, Find one where you can put, let's say it was 120 grams. So this recorded 105 calories. Watch what happens when I add it. It's in kcal. Okay, something went a little bit wonky here. I recorded that wrong, but you guys get the idea. Let's try, the one that I messed up was avocado. Like I said, you're always going to want to get one. You're not just going to want to guess or do half. You're going to want to find one that has grams. Way easier on the app. I'm just going to show you here because I logged one today. So here we go. This is another example of the cold foam. I actually had to find the new protein cold foam with sugar-free, and I typed in my own and made sure that that nutrition was accurate. Then for avocado, I actually go in, and I hope you guys can see this. I go in and I find one that has the measurement by the gram, and then I weigh it on my food scale, and I just record how many grams it is. It's so much easier than getting, you know, the cup measurements and making a huge mess and maybe being accurate. It's so much easier to just turn this thing on. Takes a little while. It's trying to find its balance, I guess. But you just turn it on, you find your unit in ounces, grams, or milliliters. I literally measure my coffee on this every single morning. I measure my avocados on it. Everything that I eat, I used to do container systems, estimating, and sometimes if you're at a potluck or if you're with friends, you can definitely just estimate and do the best that you can. If you're going out to eat and they don't have a menu like Chipotle or like one of the chains that actually has all of the nutrition right there at the tips of our fingers, you can estimate, and I would always go a little bit higher in fat because that's what a lot of restaurants use to make their food more flavorful. You guys can get pretty darn close just by typing in the individual ingredients if you're at a restaurant. Let's say, I mean, how different is their ground beef going to be from ground beef? How different is their cut of steak going to be from the other cut of steak, minus the oils, minus the other things? So that's why I say, because often fat is where the flavor is, what I would do is I would log whatever the meat is, whatever the thing is that you're eating, then I would just go a little bit higher on the fats if you're estimating. And then, as I said, just if they have it, record it appropriately. They have a really neat section on here where you can create your own food. Let's see if they have it here. So if I add food, yeah, you can create your own foods on here. It's a little bit easier on the app. For example, I make my own sourdough bread, so I put my recipe in here. So if I go in here, they've got a little section for my recipes, my foods. So right in here, I have a few different recipes, including my own homemade sourdough bread, and you can, like, I do 4 cups of flour, I do the water, I do the salt, and I record all of those ingredients and I measure them on my scale or in a cup, and I make sure. And then when I bake the bread, they have a certain number of servings that they have you say, well, how many people does this serve? And then I can just measure my bread in grams and I have the exact macronutrients that I need. Or if you're making your own, you know, like I have my butternut squash soup recipe on here. You can also, like I said, you can create foods if they don't have them in the MyFitnessPal database, which is how I did the protein cold foam. I went on Starbucks website and I asked around and I figured out what is the new sugar-free protein cold foam that they didn't have in the database, found out what the macros were, and I'm able to log that every single day so that way I get the most accurate results out of my food diary. So those are all things to consider as you're using it. Like I said, don't guess, measure, double check your information. And when you're starting out, go high, log everything you eat without judgment. If you're eating 4 almonds, log 4 almonds. If you have a handful of cereal, log your handful of cereal. And I would say that goes for everyone too. If you graze, log it all. That way you can figure out exactly where you're at. And then once you figure out your starting point, it's very easy to adjust all of your macros to go to your goals. So I hope that all of that helped you guys. And if you have any questions about how to use any food diary or logging, or if you have any confusion about how to weigh your food, how to create recipes, how to do anything nutrition wise or fitness wise, leave a comment down below and I'll try to get back with you. And until then, I will see you next time. Happy logging.